The Eastern Front, 1943. The mud was a quagmire, the cold was a killer, and yet, rolling through the desolation came a new, terrifying silhouette. It was the Panzerkampfwagen VI Tiger I, or simply, the Tiger I. This was not merely a tank, it was a mobile fortress, a beast forged from steel and ambition. For the Soviet tankers who faced it in their T-34s, the sound of its approach was the sound of inevitable death. The legend of the Tiger I was built on its ability to destroy entire Soviet formations while remaining impervious to return fire. It was the greatest propaganda weapon the Third Reich ever produced, a symbol of technological invincibility. But the Tiger's story is a tragic paradox. It was a masterpiece of over-engineering that won almost every tactical engagement it fought, yet simultaneously became a devastating drain on the German war machine. This analysis is a deep dive into the engineering genius and the logistical folly of the Tiger I. We will examine the sheer power of the 88mm gun, the defensive revolution of its armor, and the crippling mechanical fragility that ultimately ensured that the greatest tank of the war could never win the war of attrition. The Tiger I was the definition of technological superiority that came too late, was too complex, and cost too much. It is vital to understand that the Tiger was a reaction, an extreme response to the appearance of the Soviet T-34, a tank that had shocked the Wehrmacht in 1941 with its sloped armor and powerful 76mm gun. German High Command demanded not just a better tank, but a tank capable of destroying any existing or future enemy tank from a safe distance. The Tiger was the maniacal fulfillment of this demand, embodied in a 57-ton nightmare. The heart of the Tiger I's lethal reputation was its main armament, the 8.8cm KWK-36L/56. This gun was not merely powerful, it was the absolute expression of German anti-tank technology. It was adapted from the famed German Flak 88 anti-aircraft gun, a weapon already feared for its high muzzle velocity and flat trajectory. The 88 was capable of penetrating the frontal armor of any Allied tank at ranges exceeding 1,500 meters. This range advantage was the Tiger's key to tactical domination. While Soviet T-34s and American Shermans needed to close to within 500 meters to have any chance of penetration, the Tiger could sit back, unseen, and systematically eliminate its adversaries from over a mile away. This created a terrifying psychological and tactical imbalance that repeatedly broke the will to resist. Allied tankers understood that the moment they spotted a Tiger, they were already within its killing range, while they themselves were harmless. This overwhelming firepower ensured that in almost every engagement, the Tiger dictated the terms of the fight, transforming it from a tank duel into a one-sided execution. The gun's combination of high muzzle velocity, accurate optics, and heavy shell weight turned the battlefield into a shooting gallery, where the Tiger was the only shooter. This was the most effective armor-piercing gun of the early war, a fact that defined the terror of the Eastern Front. The engineers at Krupp had built a gun that was simply years ahead of its time, forcing the Allies into a desperate, reactive technological race. The 88mm KWK-36 was the absolute engineering statement of German ambition. We will build what you cannot penetrate. This range factor was strategic, as it allowed Tiger commanders to choose their position, open fire, and withdraw without engaging in risky close-quarters combat. Thus, the gun was not merely a weapon, it was an instrument of battle management. If the 88mm gun was its offensive heart, its armor was its defensive soul. The Tiger I was encased in thick, vertical steel plating. 100 millimeters on the front hull, and 80 millimeters on the sides and rear. This armor was not just thick, it was monolithic. Early Allied anti-tank guns and tank cannons were simply incapable of defeating the Tiger's frontal armor at standard combat ranges. It was the first vehicle created by German armorers that was virtually immune to the majority of enemy weapons. The result was a psychological factor that compounded the technical advantage. Allied crews, watching their rounds harmlessly ricochet or simply shatter against the Tiger's hull, often experienced combat paralysis. Thus emerged the Tiger Panic, a self-fulfilling prophecy of fear on the battlefield. The tank was built not just for survival, it was built for enemy demoralization. The sheer volume of protection was its second strategic advantage. It allowed the crew to maintain composure under fire, knowing their tank was the toughest on the field. The flat, unsloped nature of the armor, though technically less advanced than the sloped armor of the T-34, was compensated for by its incredible thickness and quality of steel. The Tiger was literally a fortress. This armor, combined with the 88mm gun, created the most feared predator of the mid-war period. The survivability factor engineered into the Tiger I was designed to ensure the German advantage was maintained throughout prolonged engagements, allowing crews to remain combat effective even after taking hits. It must be emphasized that in combat, this advantage gave Tiger commanders unprecedented freedom of maneuver. They could take fire to cover other, more vulnerable vehicles, or calmly select positions for precision firing, without fear of immediate destruction. This confidence in defense was just as vital as the thickness of the steel itself. Now we must turn to the fatal flaw that defined the Tiger's strategic uselessness: its over-engineered complexity and mechanical fragility. The Tiger I was too heavy. At 57 tons, it required an enormous amount of power, supplied by the Maybach HL 230 P45 V12 gasoline engine. This engine was consistently overworked. It was a powerful engine, yes, but it was forced to move an impossible amount of weight across the brutal roadless terrain of the Eastern Front. The engine was prone to overheating, mechanical failure, and possessed an astronomical thirst for fuel. This created a persistent logistical burden. But the true mechanical nightmare lay in the transmission and suspension. The Tiger used a complex, semi-automatic pre-selector transmission, a masterpiece of German engineering that was impossible to fix in the field. If the transmission failed, which it did frequently under the strain of 57 tons, the tank was immediately immobilized. Recovering it required specialized, heavy recovery vehicles, often multiple FAMO half-tracks, to tow. This logistical complexity meant that far more Tigers were lost to mechanical breakdown and subsequent scuttling by their crews than were lost to enemy fire. The design was brilliant in theory, but catastrophic in the realities of a war of attrition. The suspension system was equally brilliant and equally flawed. It utilized an overlapping, interleaved road wheel design, Schachtellaufwerk. This design distributed the massive weight evenly, giving the Tiger a remarkably smooth ride and better off-road performance than its weight suggested. However, damage to a single outer wheel required the removal of multiple inner wheels for repair, often freezing the tank to the ground in mud or ice. This feature, which provided a tactical advantage in battle, became a logistical curse. Thus, the Tiger I was a weapon that destroyed itself faster than the enemy could destroy it. This fatal duality, tactical superiority versus strategic fragility, is the central paradox of the Tiger I. Every single technical component designed for superiority contributed to its own logistical inefficiency. The Tiger's immense complexity created a logistics tale that crippled the German war effort. The cost, both in time and materials, was staggering. Each Tiger I required roughly 300,000 man-hours to build, compared to the Soviet Union's ability to mass-produce the T-34 with ruthless simplicity. Germany was resource-starved. Every plate of high-quality armor, every complex transmission, every hour of skilled labor poured into the Tiger was an hour and a ton of steel diverted from mass-producing simpler, reliable Panzer IVs or Stu-G assault guns. The Tiger was an economic black hole. It devoured Germany's dwindling resources and production capacity. The cost was measured not just in Reichsmarks, but in strategic opportunity. While the Allies were simplifying their production for volume, the Shermans and T-34s, Germany was embracing ever-increasing complexity. The production ratio was devastating. The Allies produced tens of thousands of medium tanks, while Germany struggled to produce just 1,347 Tiger Is. For every one Tiger on the battlefield, the Allies could field 10 or even 20 comparable tanks. This difference was the ultimate strategic equalizer. The Tiger's quality was undeniable, but quality could not win a war decided by sheer volume. The failure to prioritize mass production over mechanical perfection was the critical error that sealed the fate of the Tiger I and the German armored divisions. The Tiger I, despite its legend, was a colossal misallocation of strategic resources. The more time required to repair a single Tiger, the fewer operational vehicles remained in the field, creating a chronic deficit that could not be overcome by the growing volume of enemy production. Logistical complexity was not merely an inconvenience. It was a strategic threat. The Tiger I's reputation was cemented in dramatic, terrifying debuts. Its first strategic appearance came in North Africa, where a small number of Tigers immediately decimated Allied armored forces in engagements like the Battle of Sidi Bouzid. The sight of shells bouncing off the Tiger's armor demoralized British and American forces, forcing the rapid acceleration of tank and anti-tank gun development. But the most decisive test was the Battle of Kursk in 1943. This was the largest tank battle in history, and the Tiger was supposed to be the spearhead of the German offensive. In the initial days, the Tiger performed exactly as designed, achieving stunning kill ratios. Accounts abound of a single Tiger destroying dozens of T-34s. However, the mechanical fragility immediately resurfaced. Tigers broke down en route to the battle. They became immobilized in the thick minefields and were lost to simple recovery failures. The small numbers deployed were quickly neutralized by strategic minefields, focused artillery fire, and overwhelming numbers of T-34s and massed Soviet reserves. Kursk proved that superior technology in small numbers cannot defeat overwhelming industrial power and strategic depth. Even the most powerful tank in the world could not change the fundamental math of a war of attrition. The Tiger I achieved tactical victory, but failed strategically, confirming its status as an over-engineered monster. The operational history of the Tiger I is a sequence of dazzling tactical victories followed by catastrophic logistical failures. This cycle of tactical success and strategic defeat was a recurring theme on every front where the Tiger operated. The crews may have been the best, the tank may have been the strongest, but logistics always remained its Achilles heel. The crew of the Tiger I were the ultimate elite of the German armored forces. They were highly trained, carefully selected men tasked with handling this complex machine and its immense responsibility. Their morale was incredibly high, knowing they drove the most feared vehicle on the battlefield. Aces like Michael Whitman built legendary careers upon the Tiger's unparalleled ability to survive and strike. Whitman's single-handed destruction of a British column at Villers-Bocage is the stuff of armored legend, a testament to what a skilled crew could do with the Tiger's power. However, this legend masked the terrible burden placed upon the crews. They were constantly under pressure to preserve their expensive machine. They had to be mechanical experts, not just gunners and drivers. The difficulty of maintenance in the field meant the crew had to perform near-constant, exhausting mechanical labor. The complexity of the interleaved road wheels, the finicky transmission, and the demanding maintenance schedule turned the crew's existence into a never-ending mechanical struggle. The legend of the Tiger is equally a legend of the dedicated, exhausted men who labored to keep the over-engineered beast running. The responsibility of driving this extremely costly piece of military hardware, knowing its loss was a strategic blow, weighed heavily on every commander. The sheer complexity demanded an elite crew, and that requirement further limited the scale of the Tiger's deployment. Thus, the Tiger's problem was not just steel and oil, it was also the human factor, the intolerable burden of maintaining technical complexity in a war of annihilation. Let us return to the central theme, the paradoxical failure of success. The Tiger I was not simply better than the Sherman or the T-34. It was overwhelmingly superior in a one-on-one fight when it came to armor penetration. It consistently achieved kill ratios of 10-to-1 or more. This technical superiority is often cited, but its true strategic meaning is critically important. Technical brilliance cannot overcome industrial scale. The Allies reached a simple but crucial conclusion. If you cannot defeat the Tiger in a duel, you must simply overwhelm it with volume. The T-34 was simpler, faster to build, easier to repair, and required less fuel. It was good enough. Its design allowed unskilled laborers, including women and teenagers, to construct tanks in massive quantities. It was a machine designed for mass warfare, not for a technological exhibition. The Sherman, while suffering greatly against the 88mm gun, could be built by the thousands, and American industry could absorb massive losses without faltering. The logistical simplicity of the Sherman was its hidden weapon. Crews could rapidly repair, replace, and return Shermans to service at a much greater speed than the Germans could restore Tigers. While German maintenance depots were clogged with broken-down Tigers awaiting specialized parts and heavy cranes, American and Soviet forces simply replaced the tank with a new one. This was a war not of superiority, but of survival. And in this war, logistical simplicity won. Germany's commitment to perfection in the form of the Tiger was its doom. The German High Command failed to understand that the goal was not to build the perfect tank, but to win the war of production. The continuous failure to produce simple, reliable tanks in volume while chasing the high-cost perfection of the Tiger ensured that the Western and Eastern fronts would be dominated by Allied numbers, not German engineering. The Tiger was the classic example of sacrificing mass for mastery. Let us reiterate, it does not matter how effective your tank is if the enemy has 20 counterparts ready for battle and your own is stuck in the mud due to a failed transmission. The War of the Tiger against the Sherman and T-34 was a war not of technology, but of mathematics, and the Tiger lost it by a ratio of 10-to-1. This strategic lesson is the most important one in the history of the Tiger I. Despite its strategic ineffectiveness, the Tiger I had a decisive influence on the development of Allied armor. The sheer fact of the Tiger's existence and its 88mm gun became the technological whip for American and British designers. Every time a Sherman or T-34 crew found that their shells failed to penetrate the Tiger's armor, that information flowed back to the design offices, demanding immediate changes. The Tiger forced the Allies to transition from the philosophy of the medium support tank to the creation of the tank destroyer. The U.S. was compelled to develop more powerful guns, such as the 76mm cannon for the Sherman, and, more importantly, to rapidly adopt the M10 and later the M36 Jackson tank destroyers, equipped with larger guns. Great Britain created the Comet tank and, more dramatically, fitted thousands of Shermans with their famous 17-pounder gun, creating the Sherman Firefly. The Firefly was a direct, immediate answer to the 88mm gun, finally capable of penetrating the Tiger's frontal armor at reasonable ranges. The creation of the Firefly was an acknowledgement that the standard Sherman could not compete. The USSR responded with a series of improvements, including the introduction of the 85mm gun on the T-34/85 modifications and the creation of the IS, Josef Stalin, heavy tanks, which could match the Tiger in terms of armor and firepower. Thus, the Tiger I was not merely a tank. It was a technological catalyst that changed the course of tank warfare, forcing innovation upon the enemy and rendering all pre-war tanks obsolete. This legacy of compelled innovation is one of the most important chapters in the history of the Tiger I. Its existence ensured that the final stage of the war would be fought between true heavy machines, not the lighter to medium tanks of the early 1940s. The Tiger I was succeeded by its even more formidable, even more technologically perfect, but even more fatally flawed heir, the Tiger II, or Königstiger, King Tiger. The Tiger II was an attempt to correct the main flaw of the Tiger I, its vertical armor. The King Tiger featured sloped frontal armor 150 millimeters thick, making it virtually immune to all Allied guns. It was also equipped with the even more powerful and longer 8.8 centimeter KWK-43L/71, capable of hitting targets from unthinkable distances. In terms of sheer firepower and protection, it was the most formidable tank of World War II. However, the Tiger II was even heavier, 70 tons, and consequently even more mechanically fragile than its predecessor. The engine and transmission problems were only exacerbated. The King Tiger was a logistical disaster. Many Tiger IIs broke down en route to the front and were abandoned by their crews due to a lack of fuel or the impossibility of recovery. The Tiger II became living proof that the German High Command had failed to learn the most important lesson taught by the Tiger I. Instead of reverting to simplicity and mass production, they doubled down on technological superiority. This was not merely a mistake. It was a strategic obsession, dictated by a desperate desire to maintain a technological edge that they hoped could reverse the course of the war. As a result, only 492 Tiger IIs were produced, making no strategic impact on the war. The Tiger II is the tragic but logical conclusion of the Tiger I's journey, taking the over-engineered monster concept to an absurd, unsustainable limit. The story of the Tiger I and Tiger II is a textbook example of how excessive focus on tactical perfection can lead to complete strategic failure. Let us return to the most important point, the cost. The cost of the Tiger I was not only in 300,000 man-hours or in tons of high-quality alloy steel, the cost was in missed opportunities. These resources could have been used to produce tens of thousands of rifles, artillery shells, or simpler yet reliable combat vehicles. Every Tiger on the front, with its brilliant gun and thick armor, represented a strategic deficit elsewhere. It was a symbol not of strength, but of vulnerability. The Tiger did not win the war. It drained the resources of Germany that might have helped it last longer. This is the greatest paradox in the history of this machine. It was created to be invincible, and in battle it came close. But it was defeated on the drawing board, in the factories, and on the railways, where its complexity and weight made it impossible to sustain operationally. We cannot talk about the Tiger without this final, crucial conclusion. Its tactical victories were Pyrrhic. They granted minutes of triumph, but led to hours of strategic defeat. Thus, the Tiger I is the perfect, complete history lesson on how over-engineering, an obsession with quality, and a neglect of logistics guaranteed defeat in a total war. Its legend will remain forever, but its strategic role was that of an economic self-saboteur. The Tiger I remains an icon of armored warfare, a symbol of fearsome, uncompromising power. It forever changed tank design, forcing the Allies to rush development of weapons capable of defeating it. The Tiger was an engineering masterpiece that created a new standard for main battle tanks. But its true legacy is its cautionary tale. It proves that excessive complexity and cost, even when coupled with overwhelming tactical superiority, cannot win a total war against an enemy with vastly superior resources and mass production capability. The Tiger I won the battles, but ultimately lost the war of attrition. It stands as the over-engineered monster that demonstrated the fleeting nature of technological mastery when industrial scale is the ultimate deciding factor. This tank was born of necessity, elevated by propaganda, and ultimately crushed by logistics.